Hello, Fastest First Selection Committee. My name's Radicun, or Rad for short, and I'm submitting today Tunic Any Percent for your consideration. The game just came out on April 16th. It's not very old, but the run is already fantastic, and I would love to demonstrate it in the marathon. The game itself is a Zelda-like. It's got elements of Dark Souls and Fez mixed in. Most of the game has tons of secrets that I will try my best not to spoil. And the run itself is very brutal to single segment, but we have tons of backups and marathon safe strats that can make this both fun to watch and safe to run in the marathon. Today we're going to be checking out my any percent PB in the game, and I will be pausing just to kind of discuss some strats and some marathon swaps that we might do during the actual marathon. Okay, let's get started. You basically have to type in cheat codes here to get one copy of the consumable. You can only do that once per game. But it's critical, because otherwise you can't even take the route that we go to in the first minute of the game without them. Yeah, so what I just discussed there is that to start the game and to add consistency, there are some cheat codes you can put in to get some consumables, and we're going to immediately use those consumables to go to an area of the game that we're not supposed to be yet. They're just really finicky, really touchy. If you mess up the code input. So right there, we throw a firecracker to blow some bushes away, and that allows us to skip into an area that expects us to have the sword already. You have to wait, I think, 2 to 3 seconds of no inputs before they become active for input again. I think probably just so you can't do it by mistake. Now here, the world record runs try a very difficult strat of burning some bushes and using that teleport pad without aggroing any enemies, but it doesn't really save any time, and to be honest, it's not consistent enough for me to even do it in my PB attempts. You know, you can't just like mash and see what happens. God, I'm getting caught on everything today. I love aggroing that knight, though. It's totally safe. It looks swag. Whee! Alright, 118 to the transition is not bad. So what we're trying to accomplish here is going to an area of the game you're not really supposed to start at to get the orb power-up, which gives us access to basically the rest of the game. Kind of surprised I'm getting that consistently. We're gonna save here so we can set up a death orb for later. I'd really like to show y'all like the later run. And I would kind of like to not forget how it works. I was a little salty in my PB because I'd been trying to get a finish for a long time. I know there's probably speedrunners in the audience. Little did I know this was going to go rather well. Pretty boilerplate for speedruns. I mean, this is definitely a brutal run. I think I'm just pretty green to the whole process. I think most people that run this game have a much higher tolerance for resetting and just sort of... One of the things you'll notice in the run is that the movement is a little slippery. I kind of have to stop just a few frames before interacting with the chest or a ladder so that I can make sure that I have the input queued up. Otherwise, you'll just roll past it or it won't connect. So casually down here, there would be a save point we would use, but we're going to skip it so we can death warp back to the one we just used. Helpful with that? Which is weird, right? You'd think I'd be used to it for as much as I had to reset in Spelunky. Now let me just explain what happened there just for a second. Normally you have to go through this entire area to access this room, but by throwing a firecracker, which we used, which we got from a chest at the beginning of the game, we can aggro an enemy that has a hookshot as a tongue and manipulate our inputs against that wall just enough for him to snag us through it and pull us into the room. And then we grab the item and Death Warp immediately. Holy shit, that was fast. Now we go into Purgatory here, but we also Death Warp out of this.
How fast they attacked me.
Just a little faster than completing the first death cutscene.
Let you have an extra firecracker for later, and it just explodes a tiny bit faster. It's a little more satisfying because of that.
We have to open this chest because this is used in a skip upcoming, and I take some intentional damage here to set up a quicker Death Warp later in the run.
I'm kind of surprised I have not failed the effigy skip once, because that is very prone to error if you don't get that timing just like perfect.
Now here I'm going to pop the effigy in mid-flight.
Okay, so that
it kicks me out of my animation and drops me to a platform below that I'm not supposed to be at yet, which allows us access to the West Garden much earlier than we should have been able to get to.
Garden? What kind of crack am I on right now?
Now we're going to acquire the sword, which casually you would find, and it would tell you you already have a sword. This was put here pretty clearly by the developers to aid in rerouting for a speedrun, which is pretty cool.
You know, doping is actually not that much of a stranger in speedruns. Like, I've definitely read stories of people being on, like, you know...
We're going to dispose of this enemy very quickly off the corner of the map so that he can't kill us as we're walking slowly through the water. I'm also going to put in a third cheat code here to get an ice bomb, which we need immediately in the next room for a skip.
That's not what I want. Okay.
It's very convenient that we cannot roll through the water, which gives us a perfect opportunity to type in that code because we don't lose any time while we're typing it in.
I don't even want to go in Dark Tomb.
There's a very precise setup here to be able to throw this bomb on the rubble, freeze the enemy, and then we can grapple to the enemy while frozen, open this treasure chest, get 4 more firecrackers, and then take a little bit of damage here to set up, again, a little closer to that easy Death Warp.
Failing at 20% of the time doesn't hurt that much. Now it's going to hurt.
We need the sword there to cut down the bushes, otherwise we wouldn't be able to get through. And I'm going to wait at the entrance here, equip my firecrackers, take 1 bite from the croc, which puts me at critical HP. I throw a firecracker on the stand, pick up the item that I need, and then it explodes. Perfectly efficient Death Warp.
Saves, like, actually a good bit of time.
Now, the run is timed with in-game time, but it's not displayed anywhere in the game, so we use a load remover / auto splitter to just reflect what the in-game time is in the code, but it can be verified at the end of the run.
Because it's very bizarre.
At this point, we're running to the Dark Tomb, which is, we need an item out of there that gives us double damage at critical HP. This is not marathon safe. In the actual marathon run, I would likely obtain the lantern so that we can see, and that it's just more consistent. That only adds about 20 seconds in this area.
Faster. Nope. Okay. 1 hit is fine.
I hope that I can get this segment so consistent that it's not something I would have to worry about in the marathon, but we do have backup strats in case it never becomes consistent enough to rely on. I guess it's also worth mentioning that the community already does have a save manager, so if at any point anything goes wrong in the run, I will have a backup save at the nearest door transition, which happens 20 to 30 times in the run.
That's good enough.
So at this point, we have the item we need to do massive damage to the bosses, and we also have critical HP already set up. So we're going to go into the quarry area as quickly as we can as soon as we obtain the magic wand, because now we have a setup for an ice beam.
Okay, I'll I'll equip the wand later because I'm not going to use the ice skip here. Because Dude, no!
I made a mistake there. I was trying to grab that hook point. Instead, I grabbed an enemy. I lost a little bit of magic, but it's okay. Little mistakes like that you can very easily recover from in this run.
A little bit slower. Well, the problem is that use the magic I was trying to not use up.
We have to slowly pray at these totems to activate them, but we use the time that we're kind of waiting on the animation to menu a little bit, and we get a little bit of magic consistency from the totems. They drop a little bit of magic refill.
So we don't need to stop at the next one.
It does make this area a little slow because we have to do that a couple times, but it's a nice breather about 8 minutes into the run. Most of this run is just non-stop strat after strat after strat.
Potentially, let's see, let me think about this.
Now, I actually stopped praying here just a little bit too early. Unfortunate, but you can see how easy it is to recover. It's just unfortunate time loss.
Wait for your audio cues, people.
Now at this point, we're going to do one of the coolest skips in the game that's actually very easy for casual runners to do as well, or players. We're going to grapple an enemy sort of out of bounds just slightly, freeze them while they are falling, and then grapple to them, throwing us a little bit of out of bounds, and then reappearing at the path below, which essentially skips the entire area. There's quite a nice graphical and sort of a damage zone glitch here that reduces our life to a maximum of 1 HP. But it looks really cool.
You can see our life is at like 0.
And as soon as we enter this area, we're going to save and quit. And when we reload, the life bar returns to its normal 100% capacity, but our life stays low, which allows us to maintain that critical HP factor to do double damage. And unfortunately, we are now stuck on an elevator auto-scroller for a few seconds.
Why would you ever apologize for being chatty in a Twitch stream? That makes it very engaging for me, and I appreciate it because it makes me feel a lot less lonely.
There's a second elevator auto-scroller that just yesterday we figured out how to skip, and I was able to fit into this run, which is honestly kind of fantastic because it's very consistent and very marathon safe. So at this point, the run is kind of dangerous. In the marathon, I would probably save throughout this area just to make sure if I made a mistake, we wouldn't lose a ton of time. But it's still pretty consistent to get through this area without taking damage. At this point, you can see we have 13 shots with the magic rod, and we only need like 9 here. So there's a little bit of wiggle room for us to work with.
Okay, I don't know why I just activated the orb. Don't worry about it. Okay, so I'm gonna... This is a pretty scary part. You can definitely die here because we're very low health.
And we have to toss 4 firecrackers, but there's not time to toss 4. So you have to toss 3, dodge the attack, which will kill you. And then as soon as he goes into phase 2, we're going to use the ice beam power to freeze and then do 3 hits. And it's much faster because we have the ring equipped that gives us double damage. And you can see by collecting the mana that the mid-boss dropped, I'm back up to full mana, which is very, very nice for the end of this area. Now what's happening next is we're going to set up for this skip that we just learned.
Don't save. If I was running this in a marathon, I would almost certainly save.
Basically, it seems like the developers found that it was possible to clip out in this area, and in a patch added a loading zone in case speedrunners found out how to clip out so that they could skip the auto-scroller in this room. We go in here to grab a key item that gives us some consistency. World Record does not use this item, but it's so convenient that I think it would be a good marathon strat.
The camera trigger.
Now we're going to hold camera so our position is locked and we're only strafing. And you can see my fox is vibrating. I reset the vibrate with a sword slash, and then after 4 or 5 attempts, we drop through the floor.
And we skip the mandatory elevator.
And it's just so cool.
that takes like a minute. It's insane. It's so cool. Remind me when I'm inevitably disappointed, someone...
You have no idea how happy I am that I got that in my PB. Like,
it's kind of
it's very consistent, but it's still just like being able to incorporate a new trick is so cool. So I'm going to let the lure off here so that these enemies do not aggro to me. And I have to get these 3 magic berries. That is the only way to have enough mana in the final boss fight to do enough damage. So it's an extremely critical chest to pick up. I'm going to freeze these 2 mid-bosses so that I have time to pray at this totem, and I'm not going to fight them at all. We're just going to run around, pick up some mana, and then head to the first boss. Again, 1 hit will kill you, so I'm probably going to save here in the marathon, but, you know.
Please don't kill me.
It's possible to make it consistent, but any mistake and you lose minutes.
Do the lineup or not? Oh, that's awesome, Nathan. How did you get the true ending? I don't really want to talk about it much in the chat in case people haven't been spoiled, but like how far did you make it?
There's a little bit of a breather here because it's a very, very long hallway to walk down.
This game. The game just gets better as it goes, which is
in a marathon, I would activate that save point and probably save there.
Once without the lineup. Got it. Okay.
So this is a boss cheese strat. All of the bosses basically have cheese strats. We activate the encounter. You can see I make a mistake here because I forgot to equip the hookshot orb.
I don't have the orb equipped.
But I was able to recover very, very quickly. The strat here is you freeze the boss on the edge. You walk back a couple steps, and then as soon as he unfreezes, you grapple him and drop him onto the platform that lowered, preventing you from leaving or entering. He hits a death plane, and the battle's over. It's fantastic. Very easy to replicate. Very marathon safe.
And extra firecracker.
And there you go. We get our death warp. And now we're going to go all the way back to the first place that I mentioned 10 minutes ago.
And then we like just immediately
most of the way toward the second boss encounter. But first we have to activate 4 totems. And we have very creative ways to get to each of them.
And this time I'm going to remember not to trigger the fairies. Do not mess with me, dude. Is he stuck in the wall? Oh, that's the one I catapulted? That's very funny.
Now, we stay to the left here so that we don't activate the fairies in that structure that we just passed. And I shoot one of the slorms so that it explodes and hits the other 2 and they don't chase me up the hill. Now, normally you can freeze this bird to prevent it from freaking out and activating these 2 fairies, but most of the time they don't pose any problems anyway, because you can save and quit as soon as that totem hits the ground.
I know I don't need it, but I just want consistency here.
Now, this is a pretty funny one. You can just barely get the camera to target on these crabs, freeze one, and then grapple to it, which saves you the time from having to run all the way around the area. However, sometimes the crabs can get aggroed too close, and unfortunately what happens in my PB here is that the crab gets to me right before my prayer is over.
Nope.
And I have to quickly ad-lib to the sword and
unfortunate.
Take the crabs out because they're not going to let me pray. So significant time loss on a PB attempt, but pretty marathon safe. And we only have 1 totem left at this point. There's really no quick way to get there. We just kind of have to run across the beach.
The crabs just kind of got pushed around in, you know, the perfect way. That one's a little scary.
That crab looks very scary, but I've actually never been hit by it.
God, librarian, do not fuck me.
As soon as this hits the ground, we're going to save and quit. Immediately bump the save so we have full magic. We're then going to use the crabs to get back down to critical HP and then travel over to the boss.
So while we're waiting on that, switch the sword.
And while we're loading in, waiting on the save to become available, we can menu a little bit.
Basically. Now we're we're going to have to play with the crabs for a minute, which I did mess up last time. One more, please. Thank you.
Now we pray here. As the structure opens and before it teleports us, we quickly menu to get our hook shot to replace the sword, because it's mandatory to be used to get into the boss arena. This is probably a boss I struggle with the most, and I say the most like I get it 90% of the time. However, if I do mess up, the loading zone right before the boss is very, very, very easy to load from a backup save.
Honestly, one of my favorite tracks.
But I'll get it.
It is
I have
so
that confidence, I guess.
Inspired by Fez's
I'll just be
library.
very nervous.
I will go to my grave. I believe it was intentional, but we may never know.
It's also possible for me to activate a save in this upcoming room that also activates a teleporter to the area we may go to next.
If you look up
So that is also a possible marathon strat. The community hasn't really come up with like a marathon safe route exactly yet, but either option is probably fine.
Don't be too hard.
I would be fine with adjusting my route to whatever the marathon would prefer. At this point, we're going to use the same strat that you can cheese the final boss with, which is an ice beam and quick sword attack, and then freezing before the boss can do anything again. This boss in particular is really difficult with that though, because when the ice explodes after a third hit, it sends him kind of pushing toward you, which pushes you away, and the timing for getting him into an ice lock again is pretty scary. So sometimes we have to audible and switch between a 3-hit combo to a 2-hit combo.
Improvise that a little bit.
But generally, you have enough magic to do it however you want to slice it, so you just kind of have to keep your wits about you.
The death warp here.
And then we're going to, of course, Death Warp back to the beginning of this area.
The efficient death warp is you throw the firecracker as you're picking up that key. But now we warp.
And of course, we're going to warp back to the starting area because it's much faster than walking. And we've only got one of the main bosses left before we unlock the final boss.
I don't know why I did that so much earlier.
Now I have to have the sword equipped here because I want to clear these bushes because unlike the world record route, I still do need to get through that area unseen when we load into the final boss. So I'm just kind of doing some setup for later. And I'm going to save here at the main bonfire so that when we beat the third boss, I can death warp back.
Didn't mean to roll out of the way there. That's okay. Why do we open this shortcut? Is this just like the fastest way to...
We're going to take some damage here, once again, to set up critical HP at the last possible minute.
1 damage here. Okay, well, that's more damage I wanted to do.
And our lineup here is going to be a little tricky because we don't have the lantern, so I can't target enemies in an area where I need to use an enemy to skip a door that we need to, that we would otherwise open, you know, much more slowly, casually.
It's meant to be. If not,
in the actual marathon run, I will likely have the lantern, which will make this section actually much more consistent.
Tight, like you can't really make any mistakes. And I don't really know how to do the lineup very well without the lantern.
So you can see without the lantern, I kind of have to wedge myself into the door jamb here and lock the camera so that I'm facing directly toward the enemy, and then just kind of pray that my shots are targeting him. With the lantern, I will actually be able to target him no matter what my setup is. And here we go. We're into the third boss. I have perfect health setup. I have 1 spare shot with the rod in case something goes wrong. And we have a very consistent setup for this boss to get like a stun lock kill. If something goes wrong and we don't get into the hitbox, you can very easily just save and quit and reload this room because no consumables are used in the setup. You can see once I'm kind of like wedged into this hitbox, I don't even have to do any inputs other than holding target and mash attack. And 99 times out of 100, it'll be fine. The hardest part of this boss is the setup to get the first 8 hits in because it has no targetable spot at that point. There's a little bit of a slow cutscene here as the boss dies.
Failure points left in the
We're going to pick up an item that it drops and take it to the pedestal that was halfway up to the boss arena
failure points,
and
just,
unlock our final key. We're going to save and quit
left in the round.
so that we can skip the animation of the key being unlocked.
I guess 3. One is clipping through the golden door.
At this point in my PB, I am so nervous because I'm doing this all single segment and everything is going so well. And I'm just explaining to chat that, you know, there's like 3 more points that we could potentially fail at.
And then the air. Which
So we're going to death warp back to the main area. We're going to grab a blue slime and kite that slime over to the golden door that protects where we turn in these keys. Normally, you would have to go through 2 entirely other paths to unlock this door.
I'm probably not doing this very optimally,
But using exactly the same trick we used to get into the siege engine fight that we just completed, we can freeze this slime after taking damage down to 1 HP, and 3 grapples right through the door. Perfect. Now this is a little slow. The community has no known way to skip the first 2 key placements, but you have to put all 3 keys in these pedestals, and the first 2 take 23 seconds each of just kind of an unskippable in-game cutscene.
I feel like I have the setup well enough. I don't know why. Like, I've just never had to think about that before. I just need to not miss the air. When she...
I'm workshopping with chat
someone do me a
nervously about how to not mess up the final boss fight, because I think in the run previous to this I did mess it up.
I feel like it was late. Does she dodge if it was late?
I tend to get very chatty and fill the dead air if I'm nervous. So
I watched her foot for the setup, but she still dodged. I think it must be late.
So what I'm going to do with the 3rd key is throw a firecracker like we did for previous death warps and activate the 3rd key right before the firecracker explodes. It's a very nerve-wracking trick, but I've got it very, very consistent at this point.
Fuck yes.
Then we don't have to watch this cutscene play, and we get teleported back to the bonfire, which saves like 30 to 40 seconds. So all we have to do at this point is go to the final boss. I equip my sword, I run through the path that I cut previously to not aggro any enemies, and we warp to the final boss. This encounter is intended to be lost. In fact, if you turn on the game's no fail mode accessibility option, the game actually disables it when you enter this fight because you are intended to lose. But we take advantage of the fact that the game still allows you to win if you can complete the fight to end the game in this round. And we accomplish that by taking full damage from the boss's first swing, putting us into critical HP. And then we wait for her foot to land on the hexagon, freeze at that point, and then get her into a freeze stun lock with 1-2 hit combos. When we run out of magic, we have to very quickly menu to eat a mana berry that gives us back, I think, 6 shots with the cane. And it ends up working out that a full mana bar plus those 3 consumables gives you just enough mana to be able to 1-2 freeze your way through the entire 2 phases of the fight. The menuing is extremely nerve-wracking, but honestly the window of opportunity to refreeze after menuing is very open. You typically actually have to wait a little bit to refreeze after your menuing. At this point my heart rate was probably 140 plus. And I'm sure it won't be any lower in a marathon, so at least I got some practice at it. You can see as soon as my shots go to 0, I quickly menu to the berry, menu back to my sword, refreeze, and then start the combo. And you'll see right as my shots get down to just 1 left is just enough.
Go. Holy
And that's it.
shit.
That's the run. And that's my PB. The marathon run probably won't be this fast, but still should be well under 30 minutes, even with backups and marathon save strats and maybe the occasional emergency save or 2. I'm probably going to submit for 35 minutes just to be safe. But that's it. That's my run. You run through the credits, and then you can reload the save to verify your in-game time.
My heart rate.
So, thank you for watching my submission. I had a blast learning this game. I think it's a game everybody should play, and I think it would showcase really well at the marathon, both because the run is super cool and subverts a lot of expectations from players that have played the game already, but it's easily understandable and explainable as we run, and it's also very furry, and I hope would fit the theme of the event really well. And there's a lot of word of mouth going around about the game as well, so hopefully it would attract a good audience and get some donations in. So thanks for your time, and let me know what I could do better next time. All right, see you guys later.